You've got to build consensus, and the only way you can do that is to have regular discussions about the values. Now, when I had my first job out of college, I worked for a company for about 6 years. And I had no idea what the company code of conduct was. I had no idea what the values of the company was until my 5th year. And I had a new boss that year. She brought me into her office. She said, "Ron, have you read the code of conduct?" And I said, "What is that?" I didn't even know that there were values in the company. She says, "Read this booklet." And I read the booklet. She says, "Do you know what they are?" I said, "Yeah, I just read the booklet." She said, "Thank you." And she checked off a box on her administration form. I call that check the box values. How many of you have seen companies like that? Yeah, you have people.
What's really interesting about facts is that often we think facts are boring. The reality is that there's no such thing as a boring fact. You might be boring, but the facts aren't. You've got to find a way to take the information that's vital to your business, to the success of your operation, and make it come alive, mean something for people. You've got to add that emotional and symbolic channel to it. Facts alone seldom persuade, and they rarely inspire. Can happen, but it's very rare. And yet, what do we do most of the time when we're communicating? Communicate lots of factual information to each other. And if you're looking for, from a leadership standpoint, if you're looking for an increase in conviction, competence, passion in the work, facts alone probably isn't going to make it.
Suddenly, what do you do in the car? What's the first thing that happens? You slow down, you decelerate, okay? You get really much slower. What else happens? What else goes on inside that car? How many of you tense up? Your shoulders get more tense. How many of you can become a two-fisted driver? You put the beer down and you get, and you get tight like that. If people are riding with you, what happens to the conversations? They get quieter, don't they? In fact, how many of you turn the radio down so you can see better? You can't take as much static, okay, And you're in this auto. In fact, how many of you do this? Like, you can get a few more inches, a few more centimeters out there and see. Where does your focus go? What are you looking for? You're looking for the road, but any short-term marker, right? Now, what happens when you leave the fog bank? You relax, you speed up, crank back up the tunes. In fact, how many of you speed up to make up for lost time? You actually go faster. Okay. The reason I illustrate this is because it's exactly the same dynamics in organizations. When people are in the fog at work, they go slower. They can't take as much distraction in the environment. Their communication with their coworkers decreases. They look for a marker that gets me through today only because they don't know where they're going, and they don't get as much work done. When you lift the fog, people can multitask at ease, they can go faster, and they can not only see the stripes on the highway, but the horizon. Your job as a leader is to lift the fog. Not only that, but his wife was expecting their second baby. And his mobile phone was right inside his coat. And he was waiting all the time. Every time it buzzed, he jumped because he thought it was take me to the hospital time. So he was really sort of wired up. He was excited about this baby being born. So we start the evening. Just as the dinner's concluding, he's going to stand up and speak. Guess what happens? He says, "Ron, I'm unprepared." And I whispered to him, "Well, do the best you can." And he stood up. And for 15 minutes, he talked passionately from his heart about the privilege of being a leader. He said, "I can't believe that you guys actually allow me the opportunity to lead you." And he talked passionately about his views about that. He talked to the group about the goals, the small things they were doing in this large company, and how if they pulled them off, how it would literally improve people's lives around the world. And he made them believe that the little things that they were doing were going to have this huge difference in people's lives. And then at the end, he talked passionately and purposefully about his own feelings about being a leader. And then he sat down. And just as he sat down, guess what happened? The phone rang. And up he went and out he went. And I'm next. I've got to follow one of the most amazing impromptu speeches I've ever seen in my life. He said more about leadership in 15 minutes because he was passionate than I was probably going to say over the next couple of days.
Unless you know what your values are. Do what you say you will do. Absolutely. How many of your parents have children? What's the parental version of this? Do as I say, not as I do, right? But isn't that the idea? Isn't that what customers and colleagues expect from us, is that we follow through on our actions? In my opinion, the do what you say you'll do, walk your talk starts with your talk. It actually starts with what you say